Chapter 9 of The Plum and the Golden Vase, Chongzhen edition of Embroidered Portraits. Simon King secretly marries Pan Jinlian, and Wu Jutu accidentally beats Li Zoli. The poem says, I am grateful for my long-cherished love, and I am dedicated to keeping the incense box. Years have passed and we have forgotten our distance, and our love has lasted for a long time. In the flying period, the swallows fly together and swear to fly together. Count in detail from the beginning, always on your fingertips. It is said that Simon King and Pan Jinlian burned Wu Daling, and the next day they arranged a banquet, invited Wang Po to give a speech, and then handed Yinger over to Wang Po to take care of her. Because they discussed, when Wu comes back, why don't he know that I am the one to marry sixth sister? Wang Po smiled and said, I am here. Let Wu's guy do whatever he wants. I have my own words. Answer him, officials, please rest assured. After hearing this, Simon King was filled with joy and thanked him with 3 taels of silver. That night, all the women's boxes and cages were sent home, and the remaining broken tables, broken stools, and old clothes were given to Wang Po. On the 8th day of the next day, there was a sedan for lanterns, and the women changed into colorful clothes. Wang Po saw off the bride, and Diane followed the sedan and carried the woman home. On that street, everyone near and far knew about this matter. They were all afraid that Simon King was rich and powerful and did not dare to interfere. They only made up for slogans, which are well said. It's laughable that Simon doesn't know how to be ashamed. He committed adultery first and then married with an ugly reputation. The promiscuous woman sat in the sedan chair, followed by the old leader. Illustrations from the Chongzhen edition of Plum and the Golden Ping. When Simon King married a woman, he tidied up the 3 downstairs rooms in the garden and had sex with him. Enter through a small corner door, and there are flowers and bonsai in the courtyard. During the day, there are few people around, making it a very secluded place. On one side is the outer room and on the other side is the bedroom. Simon Qingshuan spent 16 taels of silver to buy a black lacquered bed with golden patterns, a bright red hooped gold curtain, precious elephants and flowers, and neatly furnished tables and chairs. The eldest lady Wu Yunyang has 2 girls in her room. One is Chun Mai and the other is Yuxiao. Simon King called Chun Mai to Jinlian's room and ordered him to serve Jinlian, and hurry up to call his mother. But he used 5 taels of silver to buy another little girl named Xiao Yu to serve Yunyang. He also bought a kitchen girl named Qiu Zhu for Jinlian for 6 taels of silver. Ranking Golden Lotus as the 5th room, the first wife of the Chen family to marry was Sun Zui. She was about 20 years old, with a short stature and good looks. Simon King wore a hairdo and a bun with him, ranking 4th, so as to make the Golden Lotus the 5th room. This matter is out of the question. As soon as this woman got married, Simon King stayed in her room, like a fish in water, full of love. On the 2nd day, the woman dressed up, put on a bright-colored dress, and brought tea with Chun Mai. She came to the room of the eldest lady Wu Yunyang at the back, paid her respects, and handed her shoes and feet. Yunyang watched carefully from her seat. She saw that this woman was no older than 25 or 6, and she was so beautiful. But see, the brows are like willow leaves in early spring, often filled with sadness about rain and clouds. The face is like peach blossoms in March, with a hint of romantic moonlight. The slender waist is graceful, and the restrained swallow is lazy. The sandalwood mouth is light, seducing the peaks and butterflies into chaos. The enchanting appearance of the jade is interpreted by the flowers, and the graceful appearance of the jade is fragrant. When Wu Yunyang looks from her head to her feet, the wind flows downward. When she sees her head from her feet, the wind flows upward. Talking about romance is like a pearl walking in a cement crystal plate. Speaking and attitude is like a red apricot branch holding the dawn sun. After looking at it for a while, he said nothing and thought in his heart. Every time the young man comes home, he only talks about what a wife Wu Die is. I have never seen her. She is really beautiful. No wonder my strong man loves her. Jinlian first talked to her. Yunyang kowtowed and handed her the shoes and feet. Yunyang received fur gifts from him. Later, Li Jiar, Meng Yulu, and Sun Zui all paid homage to her. They exchanged greetings as sisters and stood beside her. Yunyang asked the girl to get him a seat and teach him how to sit, and ordered the girl and his wife to call him Wanyang. The woman sat nearby and peeked at everyone without turning her eyes. I saw that Wu Yunyang was about 39 years old. She had a face like a silver basin and eyes like apricots. She had a gentle manner and was reserved and taciturn. The second one, Li Jier, was the singer in the courtyard. She had plump skin and a heavy body. Although she was called a courtesan, her beauty was not as good as that of a golden lotus. The third one is the newly married Meng Yulu, who is about 30 years old. She is as handsome as a pear blossom, with a waist as tall as a willow, a long figure, an oval face, and a little bit of numbness. She is naturally pretty, but has double bays under her skirt. There is no difference between the size and the golden lotus. The fourth one, Sun Zue, was born in Fangli. She has a short stature and a light body. She can make 5 fresh soups and is good at dancing on the green plate. This woman took every detail into consideration. After 3 days, I would get up every morning and come to the room with Yunyang to make needles and shoes and feet. She did not do anything by force or force. He pointed at the girl and chased Yunyang, calling him auntie one after another. He quickly made love to Xiao Yair a few times and made Yunyang fall in love with her, till she was up to her feet. She called him sixth sister. Choose your favorite clothes and jewelry with him. Eat and drink with him all the time. Therefore, everyone in Li Jier was very angry when they saw Yunyang wrongly respecting him. Behind their backs, they often said, "We are old people and we don't care. He has been here for a long time and we are used to him." Big sister can't tell the difference. Simon King married Pan Jinlian and came to their home. They lived in a deep house and compound. They wore the same clothes, looks. The two of them were handsome and talented. They were in their prime years. Everything was like glue, and they followed each other. They did not engage in lustful things every day and press it without asking. Dan Biao Wu Song arrived in King County in early August and first went to the county to receive a reply letter. The county magistrate was overjoyed when he saw it. Knowing that the gold and treasures were handed over clearly, he rewarded Wu Song with 10 taels of silver and food and wine. No need to elaborate. Wu Song returned to his lower house, changed his clothes, shoes and socks, put on a new headscarf, locked the door, and walked all the way to Zishi Street. When the neighbors on both sides saw Wu Song coming back, they were all surprised. They sweated a lot and said, "This is a disaster for Shaoqiang. How can this Tai Sui be willing to rest when he comes back?" Wu Song walked to his brother's door, lifted the curtain, leaned in and walked in. When I came, I saw my little daughter Yinger chasing the thread under the corridor upstairs. He didn't respond when he called brother, nor did he respond when he called sister-in-law. He said, "I'm deaf. Why can't I hear the voice of brother and sister-in-law?" He asked Yinger forward. When Yinger saw his uncle coming, he was so frightened that he dared not speak. Wu Song asked, "Where did your parents go?" Yinger just cried and said nothing. While he was asking, Wang Po next door heard that Wu had returned, and she hurriedly came over for fear of breaking up. When Wu saw Wang Po coming over, he sang and asked, "Where has my brother gone? Why is my sister-in-law missing too?" The old woman said, "Second brother, please sit down. Let me tell you. Since you left, your brother has an April. He contracted a disease and died." Wu said, "When did my brother die in April? What disease did he get? Whose medicine did he take?" Wang Po said, "Your brother had 20 heads in April, and he was so violent. I started to feel distressed. I had been ill for 8 or 9 days. I prayed to God and asked God what kind of medicine I couldn't take. He couldn't be cured and died." Wu said, "My brother has never had this disease. How could he die because of feeling distressed?" Wang Po said, "Why did you say that? The sky is unpredictable, and people are prone to misfortunes and misfortunes. I took off my shoes and socks tonight, and I haven't decided whether to wear them tomorrow. Who can guarantee that I will always be fine?" Wu said, "Where is your brother buried now?" Wang Po said, "Your brother fell down. The family doesn't have a penny, and the eldest lady has no legs. Where are you going to find a graveyard?" Fortunately, there is a rich man nearby who had an acquaintance with Da Lang, so he gave up his help. The coffin was left there for 3 days, and then it was carried out and cremated, Wu said. Where has my sister-in-law gone now? The woman said, she is a young woman and she has no money to support her. She has been guarding it for 100 years indiscriminately. Rick Xiao, his mother advised him to marry someone from outside the capital the month before last. Leave this karma-impaired girl behind and teach me to support him. I will only wait for you to come back and deliver it to you, which will save me a lot of trouble. Wu heard this, pondered for a long time, then left Wang Po and went out, and went to the lower part of the county. I opened the door and entered the room, changed into plain clothes, asked the soldiers to tie a linen ribbon on the street, bought a pair of cotton trousers, and a filial hat to put on my head. I also bought some fruits, snacks, incense and candles, gold and silver ingots, etc. Returned to my brother's house, and the Wu Da's spiritual throne was reinstalled. Arrange soup and rice, light incense and candles, lay out wine and food. Hang up prayer flags and paper ribbons, and arrange them neatly. After the first watch, Wu picked up the incense sticks, turned over and bowed, saying, my brother's ghost is not far away. When you were alive, you were weak. Today, after your death, you will not be able to see clearly. If you were wronged and were harmed by others, please ask Meng and me, brother, to avenge your grievances. After pouring the wine as a libation and burning the ghost paper, Wu burst into tears. In the end, the people who came all the way cried, and the neighbors on both sides were all in panic. After Wu cried, he ate the rice, wine and food with the soldiers and Yinger, asking for 2 mats. He taught the soldiers to sleep next to each other outside the room and to sleep in Yinger's room. He then took the mat himself and slept in front of Wu Dailing's table. Around midnight, Wu tossed and turned and fell asleep, breathing heavily. The soldiers were standing there as if they were dead. When Wu climbed up to take a look, the glazed lamp on the spiritual table was half lit. Wu sat on the mat, talking to himself, and said, my brother was cowardly when he was alive, but he is unclear after death. Before he could finish, he saw a gust of cold wind blowing under the spiritual table, but see, formless and shadowless, neither fog nor smoke. The circling wind is like a strange wind that penetrates the bones and is cold, and the coldness is like a murderous aura that penetrates the muscles. It was dim and dark. The light in front of the soul had lost its brightness. It was miserable and dim, and paper money was flying and scattered on the wall. The poison-eating ghosts are hidden, and the shadow soul flags are floating one after another. The cold wind made Wu's hair stand on end. When he looked closely, he saw a man coming out from under the coffin table, shouting, brother. I died so hard, Wu couldn't look carefully, but when he went forward to ask again, he saw that the air conditioner had dissipated and disappeared. Got people. Wu Eri fell over and sat on the mat, thinking, it's strange. It seems like a dream but not a dream. Just now, my brother was about to report to me, but he was distracted by my spirit. I think his death must be unknown. Listen to the drum. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Looking back at the soldier, he was sleeping soundly. So he was unhappy and just waited for dawn before paying any attention to it. Look at the rooster crow at 5 o'clock. The east is getting brighter. The soldiers got up to make soup, were washed up, called Yinger to look after the house, and led the soldiers out. Interviewing neighbors on the street, why did my brother die? Who did my sister-in-law marry? The neighbors knew this and were all afraid of Simon King, who would take care of it. He just said, do too. There is no need to visit. Wang Po lives next door. Just ask Wang Po and you will know. There were many people who said, Brother Yun who sells pears and Heju, the 2 of them know best. This Wu actually came to the neighborhood to look for Brother Yun. I saw the little monkey holding a willow basket in his hand to win over Lure, and he was returning from buying rice. Wu called Brother Yun and said, brother. When the boy saw that it was Wu calling him, he said, Wu do too. You are a step too late and you are unable to do anything. It's just one thing. My father is 60 years old and has no one to support him, but I can't protect you. Let's start a lawsuit. Wu said, good brother, come with me. He was led upstairs to a restaurant, where Wu ordered goods and sold them for 2 cents. Wu said to Brother Yun, brother, although you are young, you have a filial heart to support your family. I have nothing." He took out 5 taels of silver from his side, handed it to Brother Yin and said, "Take it with Dad. Pay the inventory fee. After the business is completed, I will give you another 10 taels of silver as the capital. Can you tell me in detail? Who is your brother? Who is he murdered? Who married your sister-in-law? Speaking of which, don't hide it." Brother Yen took the money in one hand and thought to himself, "This money is enough for my father to spend 3 to 5 months, so I might as well accompany him to litigate." He said, "Second brother Wu, listen to me, but don't be angry." So he took the pear seller to look for Simon King, but Wang Po beat him hard and refused to let him in. She also helped Wu Die to catch the traitor, and Simon King was kicked. Wuhan University. I felt distressed for several days and died somehow, so I told him in detail from beginning to end. After Wu heard this, he asked, "Are you telling the truth?" He then asked, "Who is my sister-in-law really married to?" Brother Yen said, "Your sister-in-law eats Simon King and brings her home, and she will be exposed soon, my son." Asking him the truth is just lies. Wu said, "Don't lie." Brother Yen said, "That's what I would say in front of the government." Wu said, "Brother, in this case, come and beg for food. Eat." After a while, he finished eating. Wu paid back the meal, and the two of them came downstairs and told Brother Yen, "Go home and give the money to Dad, and come to the county tomorrow morning to testify with me." He then asked, "Where does Heju live?" Brother Yen said, "Are you still looking for Heju at this time? He heard you come back 3 days ago and disappeared without a trace." Wu let him go to Brother Yen's house. On the second day, I got up early, wrote a petition at Mr. Chen's house, and walked to the county gate. Brother Yen was also waiting there, and he ran to the hall and knelt down, complaining. When the county magistrate saw it, he recognized it was Wu Song, and asked, "What are you complaining about? Why are you complaining?" Wu complained, "My brother Wu Die was raped by the evil Simon King and his sister-in-law Pan, and he kicked me in the middle. The mastermind framed his life. Heju was buried in a haze, and his body was burned and wounded. Now Simon King has taken over his sister-in-law at home as his concubine. I see this young man, Brother Yen, who is the witness. I hope the Prime Minister will be the master, because he handed in the complaint." The county magistrate then asked, "Why is Heju missing?" Wu said, "Heju is on the run after knowing about it, and he doesn't know where he is going." The magistrate then asked Brother Yen about his words, and then left the hall to discuss with the officials of Zuoer. It turns out that the county magistrate, chief administrator, and Dianshi are all related to Simon King. Therefore, the officials are all arguing about the same thing, and it is difficult to reason about this matter. The county magistrate then came out and called Wu Songdao, "You are also the head of the county. Why don't you ignore the law? Since ancient times, catching an adulterer has seemed to people, and killing a person has hurt you. Your brother's body is gone, and he has never been caught in adultery. You are only here now based on the words in this young man's mouth." I asked him about the official matter of killing people. "Is it unfair and biased? You can't make mistakes. You have to think for yourself." Wu said, "I tell you, sir, this is the truth, not fabricated by villains. I just hope that my husband will bring Simon King, his sister-in-law Pan, and Wang Po to have them say the Dharma in front of the hall, and they will see their injustice. If there are false accusations, I'm willing to accept the punishment." The county magistrate said, "Get up and wait for me. Care about it. When possible, I will take someone with you." Wu just got up and walked out, leaving Brother Yen in the house and not letting him go home. Someone had already reported this matter to Simon King. Simon King was panicked when he heard this, and hurriedly called his close family members to come to Bao and Laiwang. He took some silver with him and ordered all the officials to pay for it overnight. In the morning of the next day, Wu was in the hall hoping to report to the county magistrate and press for arrest. Who would have thought that this official had been bribed and had already issued a complaint, and said, "Wu Song, don't listen to outsiders' instigation to make you an enemy of Simon King. This matter is unclear and difficult to reason about. The sage said, "The matter of Jingmu, I'm afraid it's not true. How can I trust the words behind my back? You can't make a mistake at once." When the official Dian was standing by, he said, "Do too. You also know the law in the Yemen. But in matters of human life, corpses, injuries, illnesses, belongings, and traces must all be completed before you can make any inferences. Your brother's body is gone. How can you ask questions?" Wu said, "If you say what you said, the hatred of the villain's brother will not be solved. Can't we just retaliate? Since my husband is not allowed to accuse me, it is justified." Then he accepted the complaint and came down to the hall. When he came to the lower place, he let Brother Yin go home. Unconsciously, he looked up to the sky and let out a long sigh. He gritted his teeth and cursed the horror incessantly. What a man Wu Song was! How could he get rid of such bad breath? He walked all the way to Simon King Sheng Pharmacy and wanted to fight with Simon King. When he saw Mr. Fu, who was opening his shop, in the cabinet, he saw Wu approaching fiercely and asked, "Is your official at home?" Mr. Fu recognized Wu and said, "He is not at home." "What do you want to say?" Wu said, "Please take a moment to say something." Mr. Fu didn't dare not to come out, so Wu led him to a secluded alley. Wu turned over, grabbed his collar with his hands, opened his strange eyes and said, "You want to die, but you want to live?" Mr. Fu said, "Everyone's head is on top, and the villain has never offended everyone's head. Why are you so angry?" Wu said, "If you want to die, don't tell me. If you want to live, tell me the truth. Where is Simon King now? How many days has my sister-in-law been married to him? Tell me one by one. Should I give up?" That fellow Fu was a timid man. Seeing Wu's attack, he panicked and said, "Calm down your anger. The villain is at his house, and he is employed with 2 taels of silver per month. The villain only opens a shop. I don't know that they are busy. The official is not at home. I just met a friend and went to have a drink at the Lion Street restaurant. The villain does not dare to lie." After hearing this, Wu let go. Dakabu rushed to Lion Street. Mr. Fu was so frightened that he couldn't move for a long time. Na Wu rushed to the restaurant under the Lion Street Bridge. Let's say that Simon Qingzheng and Li Weichuan, a high official in the county, were drinking upstairs. It turns out that Li Weichuan was dedicated to doing official business in front of the prefecture and county, and he went back and forth to make money as a messenger. If two families complained, he would sell skewers, or if an official took action, he would slap him on the back. Therefore, the county gave him the nickname Li Weichuan. That day, when the county magistrate returned from Wu Song's case, he asked for the news, so he came to report to Simon King. So Simon King asked him to drink in a restaurant and gave him 5 taels of silver. I was having a drink in a lively place when I suddenly looked down the window and saw Wu Song running straight towards the restaurant from under the bridge like a ferocious god. Knowing that this person had bad intentions, he was frightened and wanted to leave. But he couldn't get downstairs in time, so he changed his clothes and went to the back stairs to hide. Wu rushed to the restaurant and asked the bartender, "Is Simon King here?" The bartender said, "Simon's senior official and an acquaintance are having a drink upstairs." Wu took a step forward, lifted up his clothes, and rushed upstairs. Go, Simon King has long since disappeared. Only a man sitting in the front and a singing fan sitting on both sides. He recognized Li Weichuan, the local official from the county, and knew that he was the one who came to report the news. Unconsciously, he became angry. He walked closer, designated Li Weichuan and cursed. "You guys, where did you hide Simon King? Hurry up, I told you to spare your fists." When Li Weichuan saw Wu, he was stunned at first, then saw him pressing hard to ask questions, and he could still speak. When Wu saw that he was silent, he became even more angry and kicked the table down, shattering all the dishes. The 2 fans were so scared that they lost their wits. Seeing that the momentum was not good, Li Weichuan struggled to get up and ran downstairs. Wu pulled him back and said, "You guys, you didn't ask me, but where are you going? Just give me a punch to see if you don't say anything." A sudden punch flew to Li Weichuan's face. Li Weichuan screamed and couldn't bear the pain. So he had to say, Simon King just went to the back floor to change clothes. Don't do my business, please leave me alone. After hearing this, Wu took advantage of the situation to pick him up with both hands and separated him. He took one step out of the window and said, since you want to go, I'll let you go. With a plop, he fell backwards onto the street. Wu immediately rushed to the back building to look for Simon King. At this time, Simon King heard that Wu Song was committing murder in the front building. He was so frightened that he jumped out of the back building window, followed the eaves, and jumped into the backyard of the house, regardless of his life. When Wu saw that Simon King was not in the back building, he just said that Li Weiquan was lying. He turned around and ran downstairs. He saw that Li Weiquan had fallen almost to death and was standing straight on the ground, moving his eyes. He was so angry that he had 2 legs in his crotch, and he had already given up his breath and died. Everyone said, this is Li Zuoli. How could he be offended? Why did you kill him? Wu said, I wanted to beat Simon King. Unexpectedly, this guy regretted it and bumped into him along the way. In my hand. When Baojia saw that the man was dead, he didn't dare to move forward to catch Wu, so he had to slowly come up to cage him. He was willing to relax, even the bartender Wang Luan and the 2 pink-headed ladies. Bo and Niu were tied up and turned into the county government. At this time, Shizi Street and King County were stirred up, and countless people were talking on the street. But they didn't know that Simon King didn't deserve to die, but they said it was Simon King, a senior official, who was beaten to death by Wu Song. Exactly, Li Gong ate Zhang Gong's wine, and Zheng Liu gave birth to Zheng Judang. There are many injustices in the world, but they are all talked about by people at the time.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.